Elevated, elevated. What does that mean, elevated?
Elevating the status of the old nobility.
It's funny, I don't recall hearing your complaints when I elevated you from being a fishmonger's
These scruples
daughter.
must seem very provincial to a gentleman with such elevated
Got away,
airs.
honey, elevated. Do you give it a rating?
What does it do to elevate the...
Elevated Troponin and Gardner.
The more prestigious 10 most wanted list.
An elevated heartbeat.
His heart rate's elevated.
Which he elevated to tragic heights when in fact it was mere narcissism.
You can choose more elevated themes.
Oh, elevated, elevated. What does that mean, elevated? I am fed to the teeth with all of these...
What?
It was claimed I was elevating the status of the old nobility.
So you got 10 years for a performance in a film.
You're afraid he's going to squander his as you have yours?
It's funny, I don't recall hearing your complaints when I elevated you from being a fishmonger's daughter. Now, please, I must finish this and then I shall be going out.
May I remind you,
Madam.
These scruples must seem very provincial to a gentleman with such elevated airs, but I do not devise these rules. I am merely obliged to...
Got away, honey, elevated.
Do you give it a radio?
Sure.
Get a look at him?
No.
Have a care!
What, sir, is wrong with being a portrait painter?
What does it do to elevate the...
I received the accolade from the hand of His Majesty the King.
What?
Elevated Troponin and Gardner.
Is my aesthetic...
The Bureau's archives of the common criminal and elevated the more prestigious 10 most wanted list. Is this coincidence? Or are you back?
Shock, genuine surprise, pupil dilation, elevated heartbeat. It's legitimate.
His heart rate's elevated.
In his most private moments, he spoke of his fear of death, which he elevated to tragic heights when in fact it was mere narcissism.
I came here to strangle you.
Nothing I wrote.
If we can get to an elevated position, we have a better vantage point here. You help me with this.
Let's go.
Procedures continue for the entire town. This is the town where that mainline train track turns into an elevated curve. They say there is virtually no chance this speeding out...
It is one thing to defend the primitive jungle men. It is quite another to elevate their capacity beyond reason. I mean, no one here would dispute that you...
Morning and night at the recommended position, and for 20 minutes afterwards I elevate my hips. And it's been like that for almost 3 years.
Your attention. Let's hope this elevates their thinking. But whatever happens...
Is that not the true purpose of the amendment? To promote your ultimate and ardent dream to elevate...
The true purpose of the amendment, Mr. Wood,
Life cannot be measured. In trying to produce my own death, I was elevated to the status of a living hero. I was also awarded Cisco, the trusty...
Temperature elevated, 98 degrees.
Oxygen, 17%.
Appointed members of an elite intelligentsia who need to elevate themselves and feel superior to their fellow students, superior even to their professors.
Her daughter seemed born to be a duchess, for she has all the superior graces of elevated rank. These are the kind of little delicate.
Until they raise the building. Check the pylons, they'll be elevated. You know the name Max Schumann?
Don't you feel elevated?
Whoa! What about the cytokines?
Elevated, slightly. Oh, God. Back to square.
Is everything all right, ma'am?
Where do you want?
I detected elevated stress patterns in your voice.
Everything's fine.
Yes?
It's natural to elevate our first love to some sort of mythic emotional plateau.
That has nourished our souls and elevated our species above its origins. And that is our courage. Dream.
This guy, huh? It's like talking into a dead phone.
She said she saw the killing through the windows of a moving elevated train. There were 6 cars on the train. She saw the killing through the last 2 cars.
Who the hell are you? And what the fuck have you ever done to elevate yourself among the pathetic masses? Oh, that's right. You created.
500 yards! Fire!
Again! Fuck, great, put it in now.
Hanging. A double guard has been thrown around the jail, the municipal buildings, railroad terminals, and elevated stations to prepare for the expected general uprising of radicals.
It's supposed to be elevated above your heart.
Elevate to 400 feet.
Nasty doctor.
It's strange though, you know, the LP we did showed up an elevated protein in the spinal fluid, but the CAT scan showed no evidence of a stroke.
I found my teacher, and my mind was elevated, and my spirit deepened, and somehow...
Angel in his bedroom, and he was really giving it his all.
There's nothing that elevates my soul more than music.
Not you too, Emma. I need you.